Alrighty, it has been a minute since I've uploaded a video, but what better way to start than the start of the year? And what better way to start the start of the year than looking back at all of my favorite movies that I watched and came out last year. I feel like last year was a really great year for films. I feel like we kind of started coming out of that writer's strike period where a bunch of stuff was put on the back burner and everything was kind of delayed and it took a really long time for things to come out, and we started having a bunch of those projects that were put on hold come out for better or for worse. We'll cover both the better and the worst in this video. So this is kind of just like a really chill video where I'm gonna cover a bunch of the movies that I liked. No spoilers. I'll keep the spoilers out because I obviously want you to watch them. Some of them are lesser known, some of them are like just really popular films that I wholeheartedly agree are great and thus I want to recommend. And yeah, I feel like let's just jump straight into it. Let us start out with one of my absolute favorite films of the year. I knew it was going to be one of my absolute favorite films of the year because I loved Barbarian so much. We have Weapons, which came out towards the end of the year, I'm pretty sure. Incredible film, incredible horror film. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. If you haven't seen Barbarian, watch that too. But I really do think that Zach Cregger, the director, has really like grown so much in between his first and second film, and Weapons is just like a perfect, absurd little amalgamation of horror comedy elements that I really think he's going to kind of own that niche for a really long time, and I'm so excited to see what he does next. I saw an interview where he talked about how he starts every script and every film with like a one-shot concept. So say for Barbarian, the concept was like, what if you rock up to an Airbnb and somebody else is already staying there and then you find a secret room or something like that. With Weapons, it was the opening sequence. For those who don't know, the synopsis of the film is basically that a class, an elementary school class, goes missing one day and there's one kid left and the teacher. So obviously the whole town is like looking at this kid and the teacher and trying to figure out what happened, but they just completely disappear, and then it kind of spirals from there. So he always comes up with that initial hook of like what's going to get an audience in and then works backwards from that and creates the story. And I, as somebody who loves those kind of single, what do you call them, like kind of single location style films that are really simple concept, I feel like that is always going to there's something so magical in simplicity, and sometimes a film can get way too crazy, and Weapons really toes that line of having a really fucking out there plot and outlandish concept that is steeped in like horror, whilst still at the heart of it having a really simple story, I guess. So I loved that film. If you haven't seen it and you're a fan of horror, and even if you're not a fan of horror, I think it's still a good film to go watch. There is a little bit of like a teensy little bit of gore. Like it's definitely not like a PG rated film, but I don't think that it's something that is completely inaccessible to people who don't enjoy horror. If you like thriller films, you'll definitely like it, but it's a little bit goofier than like your true crime thriller kind of Shutter Island type shit. My second film that I'm going to talk about is another one that like is basic for me to talk about, but there's so like, we really got some really good films that felt like they did really well at the box office for a reason. Like it makes me feel happy that they were so successful. So even though it's like everybody is talking about them, I also feel like they deserve for me to talk about them. Just because it's something that was oversaturated doesn't mean I don't think that the movies were good. So I'm gonna stop with my like fucking, what do you call them? I'm gonna stop with my explanations as to why I'm talking about them, but I just feel like as though so many of these lists are like unknown shit that you haven't heard about, my recommendations, blah, blah, blah. But like, this is my holistic list of movies that I'm happy that I watched and I think you should watch too. Sinners was so fucking good. I have no words for how good that movie was. As someone who is such a huge fan of From Dusk Till Dawn, it really scratched an itch in me that like, I realized that we haven't had a proper like gory vampire movie in a long time, like a proper scary vampire movie. Like Sinners was so much more reminiscent of like The Lost Boys than it is, I don't know, some of the modern day vampire stuff that we've been having recently, which like, love that, love a little sexy Edward moment, but like Sinners really scratched an itch for me. And the effort and the work and the love that you can see that went into that film is just incredible. If for whatever reason you haven't heard of Sinners, or like you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's essentially a period vampire film about two brothers who come back to their hometown and decide that they want to open a bar, which this is during like the Jim Crow era, so segregation is very much real, and they're opening a bar that is going to make it so that all of the African Americans in the area and the slaves have a place to go and have fun. So it's very much set in like that kind of Midwest area that at the time had a lot of racial biases. Ryan Coogler did an incredible job of kind of creating a lot of analogies within the story that are steeped in a lot of history that is relevant and pertinent to those minorities and those groups. It's an incredible film, and I think that everybody should go and watch it. And I think that Michael B. Jordan did an incredible job, considering like I love Michael B. Jordan because A, he's a beautiful human, and B, because I've seen him in things that I think he's really great in. But this is such a departure from some of the films he's been doing recently that are maybe a little bit more like action movie or big blockbuster film, or I know he's been in some Marvel movies. Like, I feel like I haven't seen him have a chance to really go into like depth, and him playing two characters, he plays twin brothers, and being able to have such like nuanced performances for both of those different characters is incredible. Also, huge shout out to Haley Steinfeld, who plays a white passing mixed race individual in this movie. I have loved her since she was like fucking 12. I think I watched her in True Grit and was like, that bitch. And then I fucking fell in love. We're like the same age, but like I fell in love from that day. And I've watched basically everything she's ever been in. And to see her growth from like even movies like The Edge of 17, or when she was in that Bumblebee film, like she has really grown as an actress, and her performance in this is incredible. I cannot wait to see what she does next. I can't wait to see what Ryan Coogler does next. And the story, if you get time, maybe I'll do like a Sinners video at some point. Let me know down below if you'd like to see that. But the story behind the production and the rights that Ryan Coogler was able to like retain for himself is such a beautiful narrative of fucking Black power and ownership and creativity coming to the forefront. Like Sinners was such a success story in a time that I feel like we're coming out of a period of time where the blockbuster films are so not independent, and A24 really made like a change for that. And like we saw like Everything Everywhere All at Once have huge success, and some of those movies start to kind of really grow. And I do think, even looking at the list of movies that I've pulled together, like I do think that there are so many films now that word of mouth is creating a lot of success for them. And I couldn't be happier, because it's that kind of thing where it's like, just because it doesn't have a big budget doesn't mean it's not a good film, and it shows that really good filmmaking can still create a success story. So anyway, I can't take this long on every single one of these films because we'll be here forever. So Sinners, go watch it. Next we have a slightly lesser-ish known one, Novocaine, hot action comedy film that I thought was brilliant. I have recently been really loving basically everything that Jack Quaid has been in, and the reason why I say this is because he really didn't have me at first. I think I like saw him in The Boys, and his character was such like an ick. No offense to him and the writing and blah, blah, blah. But like his character is not the reason why I watched that show. It's a great show, but like his character in general was such an ick. And I think because that was the only thing I'd seen him in, I kind of then judged him based off of that character, as you tend to do, you know, parasocial relationships, it happens. Then I found out that his dad was Zach Quaid, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense with the last name and everything. I think I saw him in Scream 6, whichever the first General Taker one was. I think I saw him in Scream 5, I think it was. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. Then since then, I feel like I've just been seeing him in these really interesting and cool independent films that he's developing and creating a really interesting filmography for himself, which I kind of saw like people like Anya Taylor-Joy do back in the day. And like this world that he's building for the type of films that he's in, it creates the narrative in my mind that he is choosing films specifically because he's interested in them, and not necessarily because they're like paying well or going to do things for his career or whatever. And I think Novocaine is one of those where like the synopsis of it is basically that he can't feel pain. And then I think And he's like this everyman guy, whatever, like completely unremarkable. But then he can't feel pain. That's just like he was born that way. And then the girl that he has a crush on is kidnapped, and so he decides to kind of take matters into his own hands. And it's a very funny, kind of messy action movie comedy thing, and he really carries it, similarly to Companion, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. Like, his performance is really great, and I've now seen him in a couple of roles where I can see the talent and the diversity and the type of characters he can play, and he really won me over. So I think all of that is to say that I didn't like Jack Quaid. Now I do. And I think that Novocaine and Companion, which I'll talk about in a sec, are two films that really won that over for me and made it so that I'm quite interested to see what he's going to do next, and where I'm more likely to watch a movie just because he's in it, whether I care about the film or not. Total Incredible, another one that did really well at the box office because of word of mouth, and I'm so happy about it. Final Destination Bloodlines. I think that I love the Final Destination series. I think much like a lot of people my age, they were a big part of my childhood and my teenagedom. They were like the perfect horror movie that you went and saw at like 15 years old when you probably shouldn't have, and then you laugh with your friends at the stupid gore and the crazy stories, and everybody is always like walking around being like, oh my god, I'm gonna get Final Destination. If you drive behind a log bus, you're gonna get hit, whatever. Like, all that kind of stuff. It's such a huge part of the zeitgeist, but I do feel like as though the series really kind of fell off at a certain point, and it's been like something like 10 years since the last installment. Probably not that long, but like, it's been a long time, especially when they were coming out so quickly one after the other in the early 2000s/2010s. And this Final Destination Bloodlines has managed to do something that I don't really think any of them have managed to do since the first one, to be honest. And that is like the character work and making us give a fuck about this family. Essentially, it's a Final Destination movie, but the group of people that's being targeted by death is one family. And like, they really build on the lore of death and the Final Destination universe. You get more information about Bloodworth and where he came from. And it's our final performance from Tony Todd, and he gets to do this incredible little speech about death and life and living life to the fullest and not being scared of death, all these kinds of things. And like, when you understand what he was going through in his personal life, it's just incredible. And I genuinely was so excited to go and watch it and be like, fuck yes. Every single BTS video that you see of this cast and this crew is just people who have a love for the series, and it's such a love letter to a horror franchise that I think has always kind of been dismissed as silly, because it is silly, but has had such a huge impact on so many people in terms of like just being a big part of our childhoods. So it's really nice to see an installment in its sixth film really be super strong, and for a lot of people they say it's the strongest, like even better than the first one. So I would 100% say if you fell off the Final Destination movies after like the second one, which I think a lot of people did, you don't watch the third to the fifth, just go and watch the sixth one. It's really great. Watch the third to the fifth if you want to, but like the sixth one is substantially better than those 3 installments. Okay, I'm gonna try and get through, like, we've got a lot to go through, so I'm gonna try and get through these next 2 quickly because they're of the same. Predator, Killer of Killers, and Predator Badlands. The Predator series is back, like in such a fucking excellent way. I kind of always viewed it as like the little brother to the Alien series, and like I know that we always had Alien versus Predator, blah blah blah, but like before Prey, it really felt like we didn't have a solid Predator installment for like since the first one. To be completely honest, it was like the first one came out, it was a fun Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, then it kind of turned into sci-fi horror, whatever, and like we didn't really have anything strong since then. I mean, the Adrian Brody one is pretty good, but like Adrian Brody? Adam Brody. The guy from The Pianist. Why am I now not being able to remember which one is the guy from The Pianist and which one is the guy from The OC? Anyway, you know what I mean. Like, the Predator series has been dormant for a while, and it's really, really cool that Prey did something so special. This year we got 2 installments in the franchise. One, an animated series called Predator, Killer of Killers, which is directed and created by the same guy who did Prey. And then we also have Predator Badlands, which is like the more blockbuster film starring Elle Fanning as an android that kind of becomes the unwilling partner collaborator with this predator who has landed on like the most dangerous planet in the universe. He's been pushed out of his clan, and so he needs to kill the apex predator of all predators to be accepted back, and they go on this little adventure together. And it's so good, and they're so good, and I'm so happy because I fucking love Predator. And it's been like, I remember that really shitty one with, God, I can't even remember who was in it now, but they had like that really random storyline with the autistic kid, and like it was just not it. And for us to have done such a full 180 where the franchise is now like stronger than ever is so exciting. And now that Alien is kind of back on track too, I'm kind of hoping that we get an Alien versus Predator that's actually like a good fucking film, because those Alien versus Predator films from back in the day are super fun, but so bad. And it would be cool to actually get a proper Alien versus Predator film that like really did something. You know what I mean? One that like, I feel like a lot of people potentially have heard about, but still is a little bit niche in terms of like, it was talked about in like the horror sphere, but I don't know if it's made it to the mainstream, is Good Boy. Synopsis for this: great little indie film where it's a haunted house story from the POV of a dog. And like, what more do you need to know? Go and fucking watch it. The dog is so beautiful. She is such a beautiful little creature, like makes that film. And like when you find out that she is the dog of the filmmakers, and like not even an actor dog, like she is just a regular dog that they put in this movie. Like, she's so incredible, and I think everybody should go watch it because dogs. Yay. Dogs and a haunted house. Like, what more can you want? This one I've included. I actually had a like big conversation with some of my friends about it last night. They did not have the same feelings about it as I did, which makes me think that I'll probably get a little bit of discourse in the comments. But War of the Worlds with Ice Cube really fucking did something to me. I found it so much fun to watch. I thought it was such a good time. It was definitely not a good movie. If you're somebody who really enjoys so bad it's good films, that is like really skirting on the edge of like, it's fucking bad. It's really bad. If you haven't heard of it, don't go into it thinking it's going to be anything like the Tom Cruise film or the critically acclaimed novel. It's awful. It's a film that was made during COVID with Ice Cube and Eva Longoria. So it's got like the Unfriended setup where everything is from like a Zoom call, and unfortunately, it looks like either they didn't finish or they decided to scrap it, and then 5 years later, Amazon needed an ad, and so they decided to grab all of the bits and bobs that they could find in this Google Drive folder and shove it into a movie, to the point that there's repeated reaction shots. They're slowing down footage just for the sake of it. Ice Cube is doing the same reactions for like essentially the entire film, but it's so stupid, and it really reminds me of a time in my life where I was running through all of the fucking C-grade movies of Sharknado, Giant Shark versus Mega Squid, fucking like Velocipasta, like those kinds of movies that I feel very nostalgic towards, because there was such a time where they were fucking pumping them out, and I watched so many of them. So watching this awful War of the Worlds film and laughing at it with your friends, like, don't watch it by yourself. Like, go watch it with some friends, have a movie night, shit talk, do a drinking game, like all of it, that kind of film. It was really fun, and I felt that way. My friends just hated it. So maybe, look, it's give or take, but for me, I love a so bad it's good movie, and I think that War of the Worlds counts. Next, we have The Long Walk. Fucking incredible Stephen King adaptation. I have like no notes. It's essentially a story set in a dystopian world where 50 boys one from each state has to go on a walk, and the last person standing wins a bunch of money, but everybody else dies. It's like the Hunger Games, except it's walking. If you slow down, you get a couple of warnings and then you die. And the narrative is like kind of single location-esque, because you're basically with these boys in this moment, except when we get some flashbacks for context. And the whole thing is just about the relationships that they have. Even though they know that only one of them can survive, they still get through this by bonding and getting through it together. And you learn more about this establishment and this totalitarian government that is created this long walk-esque competition that happens once a year, very reminiscent of the Hunger Games, very topical. But the whole thing is like an analogy for the Vietnam War and what veterans went through. And it's honestly an incredible adaptation. I think everybody should go watch it. If you don't like horror, you can still watch it. There are definitely some uncomfortable moments, but it's really, really great. And the acting is incredible. We're going to do two Aussie films, because I've got to. Australian horror is where it's at. I've got to say it. Dangerous Animals. It's a shark movie, but the twist is the shark is being used by a serial killer to like get rid of the bodies, essentially. It's not a situation where the shark is the main bad guy. It's like Jai Courtney puts on a fucking incredible performance. He has so much fun with this role, and I've loved him for a long time, but this really cemented like, fuck yeah, Jai Courtney, you can do anything. I'm so down. And he plays the serial killer who's getting young girls and guys and then has like this weird fascination with sharks and feeds them to the sharks after brutally whatever. It's such a good little Australian indie film. I think it premiered at the Sydney Film Festival over a year ago, I don't know. And I missed it at the time, but I finally got to watch it when it came out in theaters, and it is so good. And I don't think it had a wide release. So if you can find it on streaming or whatever, go and watch it because it's genuinely great. My other Australian one is slightly less underrated, I guess, because it is by like the Philippou brothers, otherwise known as Raka Raka. It's the follow-up to Talk to Me, Bring Her Back, their second film. It's so incredible, dives even deeper into like the nuances of grief, and it's fucking gross and really disturbing, and you will cry, and it's really sad. And I still can't believe that the two idiot brothers that I used to watch on YouTube doing prank videos are now making some of the most like poignant horror films. It's insane. I just watch these movies, I'm like, oh my god, they have so much emotional depth. I can't believe that they're fucking doing, like, it's crazy. They are doing such incredible things, and the fact that they have such a love letter to Australia and South Australia especially, and added like the South Australian film industry, and like making sure that when they film those movies they're bringing money into the economy locally. I have so much love for that movie and so much love for the boys. Ultimately, just as like a little plot, if you don't know, Bring Her Back, it's 100% a horror film. If you don't like horror films, you're not going to like this movie. But if you liked Hereditary, you'll probably like it. I don't know. Like, it's essentially a story about two children who go into foster care. One is a 17-year-old, one is a vision impaired girl who I think she's like 14, and it turns out that the foster mum is trying to use the 14-year-old girl in a cultish ritual with a demon to bring back her dead daughter. And it's all about grief. It's very nuanced, it's very sad, it's very dramatic, it's fucked, it's gory, the body horror is awful, but it's also an incredible film, and I think that you should watch it if you like horror. Next, we have Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro. What more can I say? He's an absolute fucking... He is one of my favorite directors and filmmakers of all time. I don't think I've ever seen anything of his that I haven't liked. I think we were really lacking in Frankenstein adaptations in the modern day that were like proper. Crazy that we're now getting like 5 in the span of 12 months, but his is such a beautiful and faithful adaptation of Mary Shelley's work, and I think that everybody should watch it. It's on Netflix. There's no reason not to. Jacob Elordi really proves that he's moving away from kissing booth and into like proper serious actor, which like I still want to see him in a rom-com every now and then. But I remember watching him, God, what was it? It was like an indie horror film way back in the day that he was in. It was an anthology. If somebody remembers what it's called, let me know. But it was like, he was in one scene where I think he ended up being pregnant and then he gave birth, and I was like, this is such a weird thing to see Jacob Elordi from the kissing booth in. Another Australian who's fucking killing it. So watching him play the monster in such a nuanced way, when I feel like a lot of the time the monster is really relegated into being just like a fucking unemotional individual, especially with the heavy prosthetics that they usually need to use. Like the choice for them to have a more simple kind of feel to the Frankenstein monster, I think really did wonders for the way that Jacob Elordi could provide some emotional depth towards the character. Oscar Isaac, incredible. I have no words for that man. He could do anything, and I would be praising him to the ends of the earth. Mia Goth, if it's a fucking gothic story, she's incredible. She's a little horror scream queen that we love. Like, I've got no notes. It is a beautiful film. Here you can tell how much he loves the original work. You can tell how much of himself he put into it, and I love the fact that he has this multi-picture forever deal with Netflix, because it means we're gonna get more and more Guillermo del Toro, and I love him, so yay. This one, yet again, similar with Good Boy. I think a lot of people will know it, but maybe a little bit lesser known in the mainstream, but known by a lot of horror fans. The Ugly Stepsister. This movie is disgusting. It's so fucking gross, but it's really, really good. And I think that it's a really fun play on Cinderella and a really fun commentary on the depth that people will go to appear beautiful in the eyes of society. If you don't like body horror, if you don't like horror films, this is not the movie for you. But I thought that the prosthetics and the special effects and what they did with the budget that they had and the team that they had was incredible. And so I would say to you, watch it if you like really gross horror films. Companion. I know I mentioned before, this came out at the very start of the year. I feel like in my head it came out last year, but it came out at the very start of the year. Really, really great movie. Great to see Sophie Thatcher in another horror film. Like, I feel like she's really been killing it recently. Ever since she was in Yellow Jackets, she's been such like a little breakout star. How do I want to describe this? I don't want to give too many spoilers because I think it's a fun one to go into without knowing anything. That's kind of what I did. This also has Jack Quaid. I'm not going to say anything. Go and watch Companion, Sophie Thatcher, Zach Quaid. It's kind of a thrillery, horror-y story kind of thing. Group of people go out to a house owned by a Russian oligarch and craziness ensues and they have to figure it out. I don't want to say too much because I think it's fun to go in not knowing anything, even though I feel like the marketing for the film kind of ruined going into it with not knowing anything. But there's a fun reveal in the first like 15-20 minutes that I think you should go into it not knowing so that you can fully appreciate that twist. Yeah. This is a real left-wing one. And I realize that. Like left-wing as in left of field, not like left-wing politically. A really left of field one, but I really enjoyed it and I watched it with my parents, and sometimes it's good to have a film to just kind of throw on with other people. The Lost Bus is so fucking random. It's so out there. I'm sorry. It was an Apple TV movie that like just came out. It's got America Ferrera and Matthew McConaughey. It's based on like a real story of a teacher and a bus driver who have to get a bus of elementary kids out of these crazy wildfires that were happening in California, I think like 10 or 15 years ago. Not the most recent ones, but before that. And they managed to get the kids out of like a fucked situation. But I just thought that the film did a really good job of showing how fucking scary a wildfire is. And I mean, America Ferrera and Matthew McConaughey are always going to give a good performance. So it was just a really fun little like kind of actiony, but like not really actiony kind of film that you don't really get that much anymore. It sits between genres to me. Like it's just a easy one that you can put on and learn a little bit as well about something that happened in a really crazy way. And it also showcases how the government is set up to kind of support communities and how there is a lack of the way that they are set up to support communities when something like that happens. So I thought it was really good. It's super random, but it's not winning any Academy Awards, but it's not. I enjoyed it, and so I decided to include it in my list. I made a video about this, so it's to no one's surprise that KPop Demon Hunters is on here. If you haven't seen it, it came out on Netflix. It's an animated film about a K-pop girl group who fights demons, and it's incredible. And if you haven't seen, the soundtrack has been absolutely everywhere. It's dominated the world. I'm pretty sure Netflix is going to shove 5 million sequels down our throats because it did so well. The real voice actresses are now like a real girl group. I think that they are making the Saja boys now into a real boy group. Like, it's done incredibly well. And for good reason. It's a very good film. I love kids films, like specifically kids films that can also cater to adults as a 28-year-old. Obviously, I'm not the target audience for K-pop Demon Hunters, but fuck me if I didn't love it. So go and watch it if you want a brain turn off fun little thing. Similarly, the How to Train Your Dragon live action adaptation is probably the best live action adaptation I've seen in like ever since these kind of remakes started of the animated films from our youths that we loved. Like How to Train Your Dragon has been one of my favorite films since I was a kid, so to see it adapted so well. It's the first one that they allowed the director of the animated film to direct the live action, so it makes sense. And Gerard Butler comes back as the dad, and he played the voice actor as the dad. Like, there's a lot of love into the adaptation. It feels very different to the kind of soulless Disney live actions that you know are just a money cash grab because they're fucking shit. But it's really great, and the special effects are amazing, and the dragons look great, and the kids in the cast are so good, and it did really well for a reason, and it didn't feel like it was just adapted for no reason. Like, it felt like it was adapted because it would be a great story to tell in a live action format. So hopefully you enjoy it too. It's fun. You can watch it with your kid cousins if you want. It's a good one. I realize I feel like I've like shoved a lot of my non-horror-y kind of genre films towards the end of this list. So to continue on that train, One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA. I fucking loved this movie. There's not enough buddy comedies nowadays that don't feel like a little bit bad, I guess. Like One of Them Days is such a special, specific film. Like it was really reminiscent of some of the movies that I used to watch in the early 2000s, and I feel like the chemistry between Keke Palmer and SZA was so good that I was surprised because I didn't think that SZA could act. Like, no offense to her, she's a singer. I had never thought of her in the context of acting before, but they really had a really natural kind of camaraderie between them when they were doing the back and forth. We've been best friends for years. You believed it. And I mean, Keke Palmer, her charisma should be put into a bottle and studied by Hollywood because she could do fucking anything and people would love her. So that's just like a fun comedy buddy kind of film of two girls who need to scrounge up enough money to pay their rent by the end of the day, or they're going to get kicked out of their apartment, and hilarity ensues. If you like that kind of film, it's a good version. Similarly, I guess, kind of, not really. Recently just came out on Netflix. There's the film adaptation of The Thursday Murder Club. Richard Olsen's book series is so cozy and I've loved it for a really long time, and I think the casting for this movie was incredible. Seeing Pierce Brosnan as like this like old, not at all James Bondy kind of guy was so good. I feel like now in his age he's like starting to kind of branch out from the typecasting he had back in the day, which I think is really great. I think Helen Mirren is incredible casting. I think all four of the Thursday Murder Club people are perfect casting. I have no notes for it. And it's just a fun, cozy, autumnal kind of senior citizens solving murders film. Watch it. All right, we've only got two left. Twinless. This was like film festival darling. I feel like it did really, really well. I watched it because it has my boy Dylan O'Brien in it, and I was a fierce Teen Wolf girly. I was at the perfect age for that shit, and I loved him to no end. But he has also been someone who, since the Maze Runner conundrums of his life, has chosen really interesting films to appear in, and Twinless is no different. It's essentially about two guys who join a support group for people who have lost their twin, because apparently when you lose a twin, a very large hole is left in your life because you've had a twin your whole life. You know, I'm sure it would be very difficult. So they join the support group and then start to build a bond together and start to fill the place of the twin, and then things continue from there. Very interesting film. I really enjoyed it. I think it's really good. I think the acting is really great. I think it was surprising. Like, it went in directions that I didn't necessarily anticipate it would go in. And I really loved that period in the 2010s of like indie kind of mumblecore films that were really strange but still grounded in reality. And Twinless kind of has that vibe. So if you like that sort of film, you will enjoy Twinless. I'm going to finish it out on a movie that was not like my favorite of the year, but I think it deserves a shout out. Shelby Oaks, directed by Chris Stuckman, who, if you don't know, has a pretty successful YouTube channel reviewing horror films or films just in general. And this was his directorial debut, in which he wrote the film as well. It was produced by Mike Flanagan, and I think the studio was Neon Studios. So like, I was kind of going into it being like, oh my God, it's incredible that like just this YouTuber managed to get some really huge names in horror to support his directorial debut, which is a horror film about a woman who is looking for her missing sister. I didn't think the film was bad. I didn't think it was incredible, but I can really respect the fact that he got it done. I think that there were areas in the writing that maybe could have been a little bit better, but fuck it. I couldn't get a studio film made, and I couldn't write a movie, and I couldn't direct a fucking movie. So props to him, because I think that it was genuinely a really fucking solid effort. And I think that for his first film, he can learn a lot and kind of continue on. Like, hopefully, if this is his dream, like, continue on and make some more shit. I thought it was great, and I think that people should support indie filmmakers. I understand that, like, to a degree, kind of similar with writing a book. When you have a platform, a lot of those doors kind of open a little bit easier for you. But I think that one thing that can be said is that a YouTuber managing to get people on board to make a film, especially credible people, that is a difficult task. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure there'd be a lot more movies by YouTubers, because everybody on YouTube wants to be a filmmaker. Not everyone, but you know what I mean. So I think it deserves its props. It probably wasn't like my favorite film of the year, but I thought that it showed an ode to somebody who, it was a love letter to the horror genre, I think. And I think that he deserves to be credited for the work that he did, because I'm seeing a lot of discourse online about people giving their opinions on if it was good or not. And I've always kind of tried to refrain on my channel from being a film commentary channel in terms of like quality of films, because I'm not fucking qualified to critique someone's art. Who the fuck am I? Like, I'll look at the Ice Cube movie and I'll tell you it's shit. Like, that's just shit, you know? But I can have my opinion, but I'm not going to criticize something that has been someone's lifelong work. I think it's cool that he got a film made, and I hope that it was a positive experience for him, and I hope that he continues on the trajectory if that's where he wants to go. And I think it's really cool that Neon and Mike Flanagan went out on a limb to support him with that. So yeah, that's how I'm going to finish it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I feel like it ended up being like way longer than I thought it was going to be, so I apologize for that. I'm just a long-winded bitch, and that's, if you like it, amazing. Please subscribe. I plan to be a lot more active on this channel this year. I've got my shit together, and I am really excited for the year to come and for the videos that we're going to do together. And I hope that you really enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give it a like and a thumbs up, and let me know your favorite movies that you watched this year, because I feel like there's always films that come out that slip under the radar, and I want to add some to my watch list, so let me know. And I don't think I've got anything else to say. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.